My name is Lolita Duick. I'm from VDZ. And here on this Lichthof stage, we have a bit more of an interactive atmosphere. So I'm happy to present our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Jana Moser. She is the head of digital for Axel Springer. Head of data innovation already tells us about the subject that we'll hear today. We're going to talk about Axel Springer's data innovation project. So we've heard of big data, of data strategy, and now maybe Dr. Jana Moser can answer some of the questions that we have about using data and what the potential is for our businesses. So please welcome with me Dr. Jana Moser to the stage.
So hello everybody, can you hear me? Perfect. I'd like to start with a brief introduction to Axel Springer. I think many of you already know Axel Springer, right? I'm pretty sure that you will go to some of the other presentations we will hear later on, and you can see on the agenda, especially this evening, where you will hear even more about the internationalization of Axel Springer. But I think one of the most interesting things is that we've started with Axel Springer many years ago. So 1946, we were founded in Hamburg in the north of Germany. And we started with just one print product. But now we are active in more than 40 countries and with 15,000 employees. And I think that's pretty interesting because we have a very diverse model. We have the paid and content model most publishers have, but additionally we have the classifieds, ads model, and the marketing model. And as you've heard today already from the colleague from Schibsted, we've really leapfrogged in the past regarding our digital revenue. So as you can see it right now, the digital activities contribute more than 70% now to our EBITDA. So what now exactly is the head of data innovation? I know many people think that's really a really nice job title. And to be honest, I invented it. So it's nothing you can see at another company. Most people think, okay, innovation is very important, and they have some persons, most of them are head of digital, or as chief data officer, chief digital officer, etc. But what I do is exactly more this. I'm head of critics fighter. So what do you really understand under this kind of job title? As head of critics fighter, what I do every day is I try to answer many questions. And because many people say, okay, what do you really do? Do you work with data, or do you really do BI, big data? And big data is definitely the buzzword everybody's using. I don't really like the word big data, honestly speaking, because it's more about smart data, how to understand really the data behind what we collect. And you know that especially the big companies work with data. It's Google, it's Facebook, and especially in Germany and in Europe, we discuss about the big companies, about the US companies, how they collect data and how they benefit from it and how do they monetize it. But of course, it's the other companies as well. They provide data, they collect data, and they use it pretty well. So you will ask now the question, so Jana, you collect data, you are the head of data innovation, but what's exactly the innovation you provide? And that's the question I will give you right now. So to give you a better understanding of what we do is to tell you the reach we have and to show you the reach we have, and it's more than 32 million users we reach every day, every month in Germany, and more than 200 million internationally with our products. And you can see here, nevertheless, quite a gap between the reach and the registrations we have. And now, this is the interesting thing. You can see here now, from our point of view, the competitors. Yesterday, I was asked by one of the participants here Jana, do we have or will we have in the future a data war? So from my perspective, will we have it? We are already in a data war. So why are we in a data war? I would like to ask you one question. Who of you does not have an iPhone, an Android or a Windows phone? Please raise your hand. So none of you. So that shows you quite good that everybody of you is more or less connected to an identifiable information, so an ID, and your profile is collected by one of these companies. It's either Android with Google, it's Apple with the iPhone, or it's Windows. So we already have these kind of data profiles, and they are necessarily connected to you as a person. So whatever you do, everything is already profiled. But honestly speaking, from a European country's point of view and company's point of view, what we do is nothing. We try now to collect all the data, but we have the regulation on the one hand, and not only the regulation, but the competitors on the other hand who set the benchmark what to do with data. And from the perspective of a user's point of view, and additionally from the regulatory's point of view. Everything the other companies do, and that's the reason why these companies are the competitors, not necessarily the other publishers. These companies try to collect the data, we should monetize. And that's the reason why I think we should focus on our assets and what we do with data right now and in the future. Now let's go to Axel Springer. Our innovative backbone is definitely our portfolio. In comparison to other publishers, we have the marketing and the classified ads model as well. That's a very good backbone from our perspective, but unfortunately, all the different companies you can see herein are more or less separated. They are the market leaders in their domain, but they are separated. They're working very hard to be successful. They already work with data, but they work separately to each other. And what we want to do right now is we want to break the walls between these pillars. We want them to share the different kind of data sets they have. And each different model has different kind of data. So the portals, for example, the job portals like Stepstone, or the real estate portals like Immonet and Immowelt in our portfolio, they definitely need a registration. I mean, it makes totally sense to register. So they have social demographics data. And these platforms know, of course, what interest the person has, the specific interest regarding this classified portal. The paid model, of course, the content is there's quite an amount of data regarding social demographics, because of course you have to register to get these the content, the articles. But on the other hand, they have some interest data as well. And the other marketing models, these are more the models where we have performance-based marketing and other advertisement. They have especially interest data and intent data. So what happens now is that we want them to share the data with one DMP, so one data management platform, where on the one hand, the different assets can organize and structure the data by themselves, and nevertheless try to share the data with the others, so that they stay autonomous, and on the other hand, that they collaborate with each other. So you will ask then the next question, and that's definitely one of the biggest concerns every company has when they work with us together, and even a very decentralized portfolio we have. Do they really need you, Jana? And honestly speaking, you should think, okay, in short term, no, they don't need me. They don't need the holding. Why should they work with us together? But the point is, we try now to convince them with different facts, I will tell you later, that it's better to create something like a collaboration, to work with each other and to find a way to work bottom up and not top down. Because I think if you don't convince a company, and even a CEO from a company, they would definitely not work with you together, especially regarding data, because I think all of you know that data is, in the end, the next paper or the next oil or whatever you want to call it. So what are the convincing facts? The convincing fact one is very, very obvious, and that's the thing I've asked you right at the beginning. We are dependent on third parties. I'm pretty sure that everybody of you, and with a different online portal you have, that you have integrated many third-party tags. So what do I mean with third-party tags? We have many companies who measure the traffic on our websites, who measure, for example, the click rate, who measure how many banners are published and displayed on the websites. So these third parties track the actions of your users on your website. And depending, of course, on the website and the depth of integration of these third-party tools, you can find more of, I think, 60 or 100 third-party trackers on the websites. And they all make money with your audience. And most of you, maybe, don't. And what do all these third-party trackers do? And there's, of course, the advertisement with an ad ID. In the past, it was with the device ID. Now it's the ad ID from Google, the ad ID from Facebook, the ad ID from Microsoft, and from Apple. They all collect the data of your audience, and in the end, your asset. And that's the reason why I think that's a very, very big disadvantage if you don't use the data you have and that you don't try to combine the data you are able to combine, especially when you work in a holding and you're a part of a group like Axel Springer. So you want to control your data and you don't want the other parties to control your asset, right? And the other thing is, if you want to collect and work with the data, in the future you will need definitely the user's consent. Why I'm so sure that this will happen? So by training, I'm a lawyer and I'm focused on data protection and IT law. I think this is pretty much boring stuff, honestly speaking, but I think on the other hand, it helps me a lot to bring the business to the future and to see how we can circumvent the problems we have regarding data, and especially to be competitive on the market. So if you need the consent in the future, you need to know your customer. But how do you know your customer if you don't have a registration? Do you want to work with cookies and etc.? So other companies try to circumvent it with ad blockers, or the users delete the cookies, etc. So you will have a very weak position in the future if you want to bring forward your business, if you don't have a consent. So you have to obtain the user's consent and to find a direct relationship with the user. And you can do this just by your own company. But how do the users react if they see a registration? Usually they are bored. They don't want to register especially for services which are for free, and the content, for example, which is accessible on other companies' websites as well. So why should you register from a user point of view? There's no need to. And you can find the content maybe on other websites as well. So you have to struggle to find this kind of registration and incentives. And now we come directly to the next question many people ask. There are already these big companies like Facebook, like Google, etc., and they all have a registration, they all have the direct user access. So how can we be really successful now with this project? We found out that there are three key things which are necessary to be competitive in the market and to be really the leading publisher in the future. So the first one is that we have to create an ecosystem. We already heard this word ecosystem today from Schibsted. And this is definitely the right choice, because what we want to have is a product, not just from our point of view, that we know that we're a publisher, we have a nice product, we can enhance our product a bit by implementing new services, by creating some events, we heard that today, etc. But the point is that you have to create a product and an ecosystem for your user. You have to change the view. You have to find something the users find interesting. Otherwise, they won't come to you as a service provider and consume your goods and consume your services. And additionally, you have to create this ecosystem to share the data. The second point is that you have to create your own ID. So try to be independent as much as possible from third parties. As I said before, you should control your own asset. Don't give the asset you have, and that's the user you have, the data from your users. You should never give these assets to a third party and let them control it. And the third one is to find a direct relationship with your users, to obtain the user's consent and to be independent from cookies. Now let's jump directly to the topic data ecosystem and unique ID. So what we want to do is to go from the single tracking, platform tracking, to cross-platform tracking. So that's something the other companies already do. And everybody is tries now to find out how to do it. Some people work with the email address. They create a hash from the email address, try to share it, try to use it as an identifier. But then you have to rely on first that this email hash is not personal identifiable information, which is, at least from a regulatory point of view, it is definitely pseudonymous data, and therefore it is PII. So you have to find an identifier. But how do you get this identifier? So you have to create one. So what we'll do is we have a user ID, but we will have one single ID across our platforms. And with this single ID, we can share the data. We can collect the different sets of data, create profiles, and then enhance the data, not with one party and company, but from the different companies we have. So on the one hand, we have content portal like build.de, and on the other hand, maybe a job portal, and then a real estate portal. There's some information from this portal, and some other companies, marketing companies from our side. And then we collect the data and create nice and really helpful and monetizable data profiles. But what we want to do, and that's the thing which is definitely the difference, for example, to Schibsted, we will work in the future with other companies as well. So it might be very interesting to share the data between our marketing classifieds and content portfolio. But it's even more interesting to add and enhance this data set with data others have. And to work with them directly together to create, to get more complementary data. So things we don't have. And additionally, we should have the user's perspective. So if you think maybe that you have access to your user once or twice a day, maybe on the desktop PC, or maybe on the mobile, your goal should be to have access and traffic from the user every day, frequently, different devices, different platform. So if you don't have this kind of profile, if you don't have this history, this click history, this interests, you will have some more or less some gaps between that. And the other companies don't have it. Let's take, for example, Google or the other companies. They acquired many companies. And they created an entire world around the user, with videos, with maps, with news, with all the other things you need every day for different occasions, different needs are covered. And with just publishing and with just content itself, think just about how often you read news. But what do you do the entire day, the rest of the day? You search for something, you need some booking advice, you look for a hotel, you look for a flight, you search for prices for different articles, you maybe you just communicate with others. So how often do you usually in this context have access or contact to a pure content platform? Not very often. And that's the reason why we want to work with other companies together. We have our portfolio, which is already very strong with market leaders, but we want to work with others together. What happens then is that we have this unique user ID we can share with our cooperation partners as well, to create an even better data set, even better portfolio of data. And in the end, we have better data that which we can monetize. So it's not just about us, because the other companies have problems as well. So e-commerce companies have the problem that they just have contact to the users when the user wants to buy something. And the rest of the day, I mean, you don't buy every minute, and you don't buy every hour. You just buy when you need it. And that's the problem of every other company as well, offline companies, brick and mortar companies, etc. So we want them to share the data with us and to create a profile under this unique user ID. But that's just half of the truth. You have to create this unique ID. And you can create this ID by a registration. So usually we have registrations for every single website, if they have a registration, and the user has credentials for every website. They are used to it. But what would happen if we have one registration for all? That's the thing Schibsted has as well. They created a single sign-on for all their platforms. They have marketing classified and content like we have. But what we want to do, and that's again the difference, we want to think bigger. Because it's nice, of course, to have a registration for a news portal and for a price comparison platform and, for example, a job portal and a real estate portal. But how often do you use them? Again, how's the frequency regarding these different platforms? We have to extend so our reach and the frequency to other platforms to get in contact with the user and to touch with him every single day, frequently, cross-device and cross-platform. So what happens then is, in the end, that we try to set up and try to create a product. We want to create a product that's interesting for the users. Otherwise, they won't come to visit your websites and services. We want to create something that it's more than just publishing at this point, but really supports at this point the publishing industry, and to give us more data if possible. So what you can see here is, in the end, the picture how it should be. We have on the one hand the registration and the different services the users can use then with this registration, and additionally under the surface we will be able to create even better and enhanced data profiles which we can monetize, and without being independent. Dependent on third parties like Facebook, like Google, or the others. We want to be the ones who want to monetize the data, and we want to do it with the others because we are pretty sure and convinced that all the other companies won't be able to compete with the international market in the future if we don't work together. So I think I have more than 17 minutes right now, and I'm almost at the end. So please feel free, if you have any question now in the second 2 slides, just maybe to think about it. You can ask me any question if you want to, without going into too detail, of course. But what you can see here right now in the end is what we want to do. The first one is the ecosystem. With the ecosystem, we want to be independent from third parties, to increase frequency, to enhance the data sets. We are pretty sure that we can then have a strong market position. And just to remind you, even the Federal Ministry of Germany, they have decided, and or there was a statement in a cartel process against Google, that they said, if companies have a strong database and many data, personally identifiable information, they have a competitive advantage. So now just think of your company right now. How many and how much good data do you really have? Is it just your data? The few clicks on your website, your services regarding content? What you have to do, and what I'm pretty sure most of you do, you try to buy data, to enhance your data with third-party information. But then you have to rely on the third party, and you have to give them a share of your revenue. Why don't you just get in the driver's seat and monetize the data on your own? And especially, don't be dependent anymore of cookies, because you don't really know what will come in the future regarding cookies. Many people say nothing will change in the future regarding cookies, and we can collect the data and all the stuff with cookies. But from my perspective, this won't happen. And the other companies already have their consent, so they don't have to struggle. They don't have to discuss regarding cookies now on the European level. They already have their consent. And what we do is we try to fight just on our own, each single company, without working together, especially not in Europe. And I think this will be, in the end, the problem many companies will have. So the next question would be, obviously, so Jana, with whom do you want to work together? This is definitely a fact I can't disclose right now, but maybe in the next few weeks. But I think if we can achieve what I've described, and we're working hard on that, we will have data the others don't have. Because the first-party data we have, we got then with a consent, because we asked the users for that. And additionally, information about news consumption and the other consumption of the different services, which are connected then with this unique ID, is an information the other big companies don't have. We have to give them the information, but why not monetize it by ourselves? So, do you still think that this is not an innovation? Or do you maybe have another innovation I can learn from? So please feel free to ask any question.
Thank you, Jana. Very interesting. Great insights. I have two questions. Can you say anything about how do you collect the data? Are you using one DMP? Are you able to mention with whom you're working with? And the second question is, for what are you using the data? So do you only use it for advertising, or what else do you have in mind?
Yeah, thank you. Very good questions. So the first one is we try partly to centralize the technology. So what we did was that we licensed one DMP. I can tell you it's Telium. We licensed one DMP, and we set the system up so that the different companies have their own little DMP, so to say, and they can decide what data they can give the others. So we have a group profile and we have a unit profile. And every company then can decide which data is transferred to the global profile for the group. And with this global profile and with the unit profiles, every company, and in the end, of course, Axel Springer as a group, we want to use it for personalization, of course, and for advertisement. And for any other purpose, for example, or especially the other units have in mind, they can use, of course, the data. And there you have to just to be very flexible and to think about business models based on data. Any more questions?
Hello, Jana. You plan to use the data outside your media to reach your advertisers.
Again, sorry.
Do you plan to use your data to reach your advertisers, to offer your advertisers, your audience outside of your media through programmatic
that will be something we'll do in the future, right? So we're working right now very hard on that topic. So programmatic, of course, is definitely a topic for us, yes.
So you really think it's an opportunity for media to use data not only in their own websites or media, but outside the whole world, right?
Sure. You can monetize, of course, this, especially regarding advertisement, and to sell the different data to other companies, not to sell the different profiles, but to provide this kind of data for data-driven advertisement in different spaces, not just on our websites. Yes, of course. So we have a media agency, media impact, and they will work with this data, of course. No questions. Have I convinced you? Yes. Perfect. Yeah, sure.
How long is this journey taking? I mean, are we talking 18 months, 3 years, 5 years? It's ambitious, and there's a lot of retrofitting systems and legacies to be overcome.
Usually only my colleagues ask me this question, because the project, it's called the Data Innovation Project at our office. So the project has usually a beginning and an end, right? So where's the end? Well, what's your journey going to? Sure. The point is, we've started, honestly speaking, about a year ago. So I'm leading this project now for 1 year, but more than 1 year. It needed a lot of understanding right now to understand in which direction we should go and where's the difference, what we should do in the future. What we want to do is to work quite agile. We start with an MVP, of course. We set up the system with a DMP already, and now we onboard different. We are onboarding now different units to start to collect the data, and to combine it. We have to create data layers to work with us to work together to really make the data useful. Regarding the registration, we are already in the process that this question mark you've seen before. That we are more in negotiations than maybe others think that we are, and hopefully we have this registration topic solved, at least first part of it, in the mid of this year. And regarding this data sharing, it's an ongoing process. So I can't really say where the end is. The usual answer is as soon as possible. Welcome.
It's very impressive what we have heard here, but I have one question. The consent of your customers, is that so sure that you get it in the amount you need it?
Is it sure that we get the consent?
Yeah.
Yeah, the point is you will get the consent if you have a nice product. You have to create a nice product, otherwise you can't convince the consumer. And that's the reason why we started with the personalization of the websites and collecting the data, the profiles, the pseudonymous profiles, to make the websites even more interesting. That the users think, okay, it's really worth to register on this website. It's not good to start with a registration, because if there's no need, why should you register? Why should you give your consent? So it's a combination of both of us. Collect the data, personalize the website, make even more interesting personalized experiences, services, etc. And in the end, then to convince the users to get the consent. You can combine, of course, you can enforce the consent with the registration. You can connect it. But unfortunately, you have to give the user the possibility to opt out. So that's something we can't change. You have to. That's the current law, and that will be the law in the future, so even after 2018. So, but nevertheless, if you have an interesting product and the consumer understands that's worth collecting the data, and they trust you, and I think we've already heard the trust topic today, that's very, very important thing, then you will get the consent. I'm really convinced, yes.
Hi. Can you give an example of the kind of personalization that you are using at Springer? That's number one. And number two is, how do you evaluate the creepiness factor that comes for a lot of users when it's going to personalization?
Mm-hmm. So one example would be you go, for example, to build.de and you read there an article about sports, about specific sports league. And then you go to the shop from build.de, so it's a different domain. Or you go, for example, to another website. And then you see there a prompt or another message or a specific advertisement related to the things you've done before on another platform. For example, now an advertisement for a sports shirt, especially related to this article.
Okay, but you're talking personalization in terms of personalized advertising, not in terms of personalized
In this case, that would be an
content.
example, right?
Okay,
so you can use it for different purposes as well, of course. You can share. What you can do is, it really depends what you want to do on your website. We don't want to interfere in the decision of the company, and we try to support. So what you can do, obviously, of course, is you can, for example, change the order of the articles. Another possibility. Or you just change the homepage of this website. You can personalize even the website so that you don't have this, you don't treat the audience like every other audience. Just you try to personalize in different manners. You can do it like you want to. This you see regarding the order, not yet. Not yet. I think this is very, especially for the editors, a very difficult topic, because they think it might be some bit creepy, and regarding the freedom of press, it might be a problem as well for some companies. But I think it will go in this direction. Some other companies I know, we don't do it. They just say, okay. For example, we collect the data, we think this might be interesting, they go to the editors and say, okay, this is an interesting topic, write about that. So that's something we think that's, maybe that's not the time right now. But as you've already mentioned, data collecting, profiling is a bit creepy, especially from the consumer point of view. What you have to do, not because it's mandatory under the current law, but you have to be transparent. Tell the users what you do. And if you try to hide something, they won't trust you anymore. So you have to find the balance in between, that it's not creepy.
Do you really feel that your audience honors this kind of transparency? Do you have very precise feedback on this, that they say, wow, yeah, we really like that you do this? Or is it something that people might not even realize that you're that transparent? So this
if
is
you
something
already have this kind of feedback, or if I think this will...
Yes, if you already have this kind of feedback.
No, no, not yet. But I think that's the reason why I mentioned the topic of the benchmark before. Just go to Google, go to Amazon, etc. You get used to a specific kind of transparency. You get dashboards, you get prompts, you get whatever it is regarding data profiles. Are you sure that you've set your privacy settings well, etc.? The people know that right now, even though it's not necessary and mandatory under current law. But nevertheless, they do it because the authorities ask them to do it. So we have, unfortunately, to do almost the same. Otherwise, the authorities would say, okay, why don't you do it? So we have to find something in between. Of course, many people will say, I don't like it. So of course they don't like it. You won't meet anybody's interest. That won't happen.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Moser. You guys can't really catch a break. If you want to go to the next session, we have to move on. But I'm very looking forward to hearing what the next companies are that Axel Springer wants to work together with. So we're going to wait for the next news in the next few weeks. All waiting and hoping. Thank you very much.